Shalom, 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 Yasha Allah. This your boy, Brother Shamuel Allah, back at you with another quick edifying video. Today's lesson is going to be called Forced Famine. Forced Famine. All right, first and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Call Halal Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. That's all praises to the Heavenly Father, whose name is Yahawah, and his only begotten Son's name, who you ignorantly call Jesus, whose name is Yahawashi. All right, and the Holy Spirit, which is the Rawchaa Qadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well to the Spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days, and has pushed this gospel and this truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty shalom. Another mighty shalom to all you Akim out there laboring on the highways and on the hedges and on the unicorn, which is this internet, pushing this 100% doctrine, this 100% truth to the four corners of the earth in these last days. A mighty shalom to you all as well. All right. Like I said, today's lesson is going to be called Forced Famine. All right. And came across this article earlier today. And, as you can see, they're going to blame, crime and these different things for closing, these stores, man, because ultimately they're bringing famine to the land. All right. So I want to read this article real quick. This is from the U.S. Sun. All right. And it says, Kroger confirms stores closing and blames steady rise in theft for their demise, despite doubling security. All right. It says Kroger chiefs have confirmed that the grocer is closing down 2 of its stores, and poor sales do not seem to behind their demise. I guess it's to be behind their demise. It says the supermarkets will disappear from the map in mid-October. It says 2 Fred Meyer stores in the U.S. State are due to close in weeks. Picture closing down stores in Kent, Washington, and the other store is located in Everett. All right. It says officials warn that the impact of crime had influenced the decision to close 2 Fred Meyer's locations, a chain which Kroger owns, as reported by ABC affiliate. It says we can no longer make these stores financially viable. A representative for the grocer, which has more than 2,000 locations as part of its portfolio, said they allude to the steady rise of crime that has caused costs to spike, and bosses had taken safety precautions. Despite doubling our safety and security investment over the past years, these challenges remain, the representative said. It says the stores that are closing are located in Kent and Everett, Washington, and around 45 miles separate the supermarkets. It says labor units have expressed concerns about the impact of pending shutdowns on the local area. Chiefs at the UFC 300 union have alluded to the risk of food deserts. Food deserts are areas where residents in a town or city live more than 1 mile from a grocery store. It can be difficult for residents who don't have access to transport to buy groceries. All right. And what does a food desert sound like? Like famine. All right. And you see that, like, a lot of these major cities, man. Right. One example is you had that Tops in Buffalo. All right, where where Esau had, shot it up, right? And really the only reason why they didn't, shut it down, or they rebuilt it, because that's pretty much the only grocery store around there. All right, for miles, I would say, because I don't even know where the next one. While I'm thinking, I can't even think about where the next location would be located at. All right, and it's the only kind of grocery store in that area for local residents. All right, but this is the whole impact. But they're going to use crime and these different things to shut this stuff down. All right, to shut these stores down. All right, and ultimately, cause famine. All right. So it says there are around 130 Fred Meyer stores in the U.S. Locations are concentrated within 4 states. Washington is home to almost 60 Fred Meyer locations. The brand has a presence in states such as Oregon, Alaska, Idaho. Fred Meyer's 4 Alaskan locations are situated in Anchorage, it says, and the brand, founded more than 100 years ago, is just one label within Kroger's portfolio. It says Kroger owns other names including King Soopers, Pick and Save, QFC, and Ralph's. It says some of the 45,000, it says U.S. braces for 45,000 store closures. So some 45,000 bricks and mortar stores could close in the next 5 years, experts have warned. Several major retailers have announced store closures or gone out of business altogether in recent years. In 2023, chains such as Foot Locker announced plans to close up to 400 out of its outlets by 2026. It says, while other well-known retailers like Tuesday Morning, Mitchell Gold, plus Bob Williams filed for bankruptcy in 2023, Bed Bath & Beyond has closed all of its brick and mortar stores and is now an online-only retailer. It says most affected retailers have been clothing, consumer electronics, sporting goods, hobby books, music, and home furnishing stores since the start of 2019, right? And what was that? That was that CHIP era. It says UBS has predicted the total number of retailer stores will drop by 45,000 from 958,000 to 913,000. Despite the report says certain stores should thrive while others decline. It said retailers such as Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, Target could be among the winners. Kroger is not the only retailer that has closed or is shutting locations due to crime. It says last year, executives at Natural Grocers closed down a downtown Denver location because of theft. It says despite our investment in security and loss prevention strategies over the years, these factors have continued to challenge our ability to operate our stores safely and substantially, and we have made the difficult decision to close our doors at this location, the brand's co-president, Kemper Isley, said at the time. In March, Dollar Tree bosses announced 1,000 closures, and retail experts linked to shutdowns to crime. Crime and safety have been alluded as factors by bosses at In-N-Out and Target, who have closed locations in recent years. Last year, In-N-Out pulled the plug on its Oakland, California location. In the fall of 2023, Target closed 9 stores across the U.S. due to crime. Okay, so they're going to use this, right? And it's all part of their control factor. All right, so they have, they're going to blame crime. When you see they have videos of, of course, the YNs going in, grabbing stuff and doing stuff, right? And then that's going to what? That's going to force, the martial law, right? All this stuff is all pre-planned, all right? And it's programmed, all right, to cause these different things, okay? I had looked up, it was a quote that I remember someone is saying. It says, he who controls the food controls the people. So it says, the quote says, who controls the food supply controls the people. Who control the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. And we know who's controlling these, are these elites, man, these top banking families, all right, of Esau, man, right? And they're controlling all this, and they're making these things happen, right? We know ultimately it's all of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, putting that on that left-hand spirit. But what they're doing is they're doing these different tactics to what? To minimize where you can go, and to basically to have control over you. All right. When he talks about a food desert, right? That's that's basically famine, right? When you're in a desert, right, you have no water, no food, right? And that's literally what they're doing, in a lot of these cities. All right, where you see, closing down. I worked at a grocery chain, many years ago, and they had one that was it was right in the hood. It was all types of stuff going on, and they was trying to close it down. It had a hospital in the back and all this different stuff, and people were, up in arms about it, about closing it down, and eventually they ended up closing it down, and then people had to travel, miles to try to get to a grocery store where people normally could walk and go to these places. All right, they're limited. Okay, and now just think about it when they send martial law in, and you can't go nowhere. Now you can't even get your food. Okay, but we see this. This is all strategic. By these elites, man. All right, we're not ignorant. To his devices. Okay, let's get this real quick. Matter of fact, let's go to 2nd Esdras 6, where it says the storehouses shall suddenly found empty. Let's get that real quick. Oops, lock here. 2nd Esdras 6 and verse number 22. It says, and suddenly shall the and suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. The full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. All right. It says, and the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. It says, and at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies, and the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountain shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run, because ultimately it's not only just going to be a famine of food and water, but it's going to be a famine of this word too. All right, it's going to be a famine of this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding as well. All right, but the storehouses are going to be suddenly found empty. All right, and they've been doing this, for a while now. Like I said, since 2019, right? And we know what happened around 2019, right? And it was all strategic, right? It's all part of their plan, all right? Because they want to ultimately control everybody, all right? All this is planned to push everybody to Revelation 13:16, all right? The charagma, all right, which is physical, okay? Let's go to 2nd Esdras 15 and verse number 3. It says, 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 3, it says, fear not the imagination against thee, let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction, for wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. Okay. Let's jump down to verse number let's see. Verse number 14, right? 2nd Esdras 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh. One people shall stand up to fight against another, and swords in their hands. There shall be sedition among men, invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. All right. And ultimately, this is what your boy Nero is trying to push right now by sending these troops into the inner cities, man. All right. It says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. It says, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Okay. Now, as they're closing these stores, okay, and you start bringing in martial law and then regulating where people can go, right? You're going to be starving people out, man. All right. And then what are people going to do? People are going to be invading each other. People are going to be breaking into their neighbors' houses because they know that, hey, this person, I seen him come with some bread or something, or he came with some water. And they're going to be, you know, they're not going to have any pity on each other, okay? Because of the great tribulations, okay? Let's jump down to verse number 49. It says, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to waste thy houses with destruction and death. Okay? Because ultimately this is all of Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi. All right? Let's see. Second Esdras 16 and verse number 17, it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. What shall I do? Salakia, lost my train. What shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. It says, but for all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of their scourges. It says, behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon the earth, and they shall think themselves to be a good case, and even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusion. All right. So the scriptures tell you that these things are going to happen. All right. It says, for many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and others that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. All right. So this is the time we're coming in, right, where the Lord is going to be sifting and deleting a lot of people. All right. Through different means of punishment, man. All right. If it's famine, if it's pestilence, plagues, or eventually that sword, man, you know, those missiles. All right. Even when Yahawashi returns with the angels, you know, there's some people who make it all the way up there and get destroyed by Yahawashi and the angels. All right. That's what's coming to this place, man. You know, that's why Ezra was, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? All right. Because it's going to be great. That Yahawashi said, you know, the beginning of sorrows. Right. You see the earthquakes and all these things, the wars and rumors of wars. Then you know. All right. So this is what's coming. All right, and they're going to use they use these tactics to strategically set up, you know, this famine and this agenda that they can push their new world order, man. At the end of the day, all right. So you can't be ignorant of this. All right, it starts here, then they implement it somewhere else, just as they did in L.A. Then now they're doing it in D.C. and now they're going to do it in these other major cities. Like, this stuff is all strategic, man, and you got to be watching. All right, and this is why you have to put your trust and your faith in Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi at the end of the day. All right, so I just wanted to do this quick lesson. Lord's will, this was edifying. Right, with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory. I want to say, Kol Halal Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi Bahasham Rawchaa Qadash. Peace and blessings to the elect, the 12 tribes scattered abroad. A mighty shalom to the 144,000 men. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS who have ruled well to the spirit and have fed and edified the sheep in these last days. Another mighty shalom to the rest of the elect out there. Stay diligent, stay focused. Keep praying for one another. All right. Keep Yahawah Bahasham Yahawashi close unto you, man. All right. Because we are coming into those times of great tribulation and sorrow. All right. And you need to be able to call on those true names, right? The name of the Heavenly Father's name is Yahawah, and His Son's name is Yahawashi. And you need to be able to call on those names in these times of great tribulation. All right. And with that, we say a bo and shalom.